ALHS Online Learning, Accounting 11, Chapter 2, Computer Assignment Help. What you'll need for this assignment. You'll need your Principles of Accounting Chapter 2 PDF, which was attached to this email and you should have received in many other previous emails. In addition, you'll also need spreadsheet software. Any spreadsheet software will do, such as Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, or Apple Numbers if you are doing this on an iPad. I'm pretty sure most of you, though, will have access to Google Sheets, so that will be the one that I will be doing this presentation in. So, let's see here. What you are going to need to be doing for this assignment is you're going to have to answer question 1. So this is on page 56. Page 56 of the text. Chapter 2. You're going to be answering questions 1 and question 3, B, C, and D. And I'm going to add an E, part E. We're going to skip part A, but I'm going to add a part E. So an extra step at the end of D here. So those will be the 2 questions we're going to do, and it's all going to be done on a spreadsheet, which we have set up over here. This here is Google Sheets. And essentially what we're going to be doing in this assignment is we're going to be going through the accounting cycle from beginning to end. We're going to start with an already made balance sheet that we're going to have for a business. We are then going to open up a ledger here in our spreadsheet. From this ledger, we're going to then add in transactions, which is going to be part of question 3. After we're done with the transactions, we're going to determine the new balances in the ledger. After that, we will construct a trial balance. That'll take us all the way to the end of question 3D. And part E that I'm going to add is we're going to also construct this right here, a new balance sheet at the end. And we're going to do it all right here in our spreadsheet software, whether it's Excel, Apple Numbers, or in this case, Google Sheets. So we'll scroll back down to question 1 right here under the Unit 3 Apply Your Knowledge section. And question number 1 gives us this balance sheet right here for a business, Old South Barbecue, as of May 31st, 2020. And it asks us, on May 31st, balance sheet for Old South Barbecue Restaurant is shown below. A. Open accounts in a ledger for each of the assets and liabilities for the owner and for the owner's equity. So, number 1A, they want us to take this balance sheet right here, and they want us to construct a ledger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to format this ledger right here. And I'm going to start to format the spreadsheet to make it into a ledger here. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make this go pretty far across, because when we look back here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 accounts right here that we're going to need to create in our ledger, plus another 2 accounts right here for our liabilities, plus we also have our equity right there. So that is a total of 8 different accounts we're going to create. But because the ledger is set up where all of our assets are on one side and our liabilities and our equity are on the other, we're going to have 5 accounts on this side, the left side of our ledger, so over here, and we're going to have 3 different accounts, 2 liabilities and our equity over on the far right side. So what we need to figure out is how we want to space this out in our spreadsheet. Keep in mind, we want this to look professional, so we're going to need to put in our who, which is right here, our what, which this says balance sheet, but when we create it, it will say general ledger, and our when, which will be the opening date right here. So now that we know that, we also want to think about how many columns we're going to need to do this. So if we go back into our textbook here and we go and we look at what a ledger looks like. So here's what the general ledger should look like. It's on page 51 in your in the textbook. You can look at it. And we have your title, and here it's only giving us the what. It doesn't have the who and the when, but we'll add that in anyway. And we have to look at how many columns, so how many columns going down 2, 3, 4 are we going to need in order to create this. And when we look, we have the dates going down one column, then we have the amount for each transaction right here going down another column, so there's 2. Then we have a third column with the second set of dates for our credits here. And then we have a fourth column right here. So it looks like for each account we're going to need 4 columns. Now, as you can see in the ledger, we have our assets here and our liabilities right here. And there's a space. So we're going to need to make at least 1, 2, 3, 4 space, which would be 5, then 6, 7, 8, 9 columns. That's how wide our spreadsheet's going to need to be, is 9 columns wide. So when we go to create our title, we're going to want to merge 9 cells together. So A, B, C, D, E, F. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've highlighted 9 cells together here. I'm going to come up to this button here, the Merge Cells button, and if I just click this button, it will merge them all together into one cell. Now these have become one single cell going across 9 widths worth of regular cells. I'm going to go over here to where it says the horizontal alignment, and I'm going to center my text. I'm going to click, so we have left, right, center. I'm going to click center. I'm also going to click bold on any text I type. And the top is supposed to be for, as we can tell when we go back into here, whenever you have your who, your what, your when, you always have the who first. So in this case, we have South, Old South Barbecue. So that's what we're going to type into here. Old South BBQ. Now we're going to do the same thing for these next 2 rows right here, for row 1, row 2, and row 3. So row 1, we already have our 9. So now row 2, I'm going to come all the way over and I'm going to merge these into 9. So again, this button right here, the Merge Cells button, click it. They've now become 1, and as you can see, the next thing we want to add after the who is the what. This isn't a balance sheet that we're preparing over here though, it's the general ledger. So we will we want to make this centered as well. So align center, make it bold, and this is going to be general ledger. And finally, for our title, we're going to then highlight row number 3 here, all 9 cells, and we're going to merge again, this button here, merge. So we have the who and the what. Now we're going to put in the when. Now I know today's date is not May 31st, but because we're going along with the date that is provided for us right here, we're going to say it's May 31st, 2020. So as at May 31st, 2020, and again, we want to make this center aligned, and we want the text to be in bold. So there, we have our title all set up. So now that once the title's done, we want to start to set up our accounts. Now, when we go back and we look at how the ledger is supposed to look, you see we have a title of our account right here. So that title for the account gets put in the middle of our red T. And as you recall, whenever we're dealing with assets, we have our debit side over here and our credit side here, and it's the reverse. for our liabilities. So in other words, this column here will show an increase in cash. This column here will show a decrease in cash. But for our liabilities, it's the opposite. So for a liability, this column will show an increase, and this column will show a decrease. So as we stated before, we're going to need 4 columns for each account. So when I go to put in my title for cash, the title of this particular account, I'm going to come back to my spreadsheet and I'm going to highlight 4 cells right here in row number 4. And I'm going to merge these here. And if we want to make sure we're getting the right accounts, we can come back down here to Old South Barbecue and we can look at the accounts. Now you want to make sure that you're going to put them in order, because as they appear here on our balance sheet, they're in order of liquidity. We want to make sure that when we list our accounts here, they're in the same order. So we're going to merge these 4 cells and we're going to put in cash. So these 4 cells here get merged. I'm going to center align and I'm going to make it in bold type and we're going to type in cash. So now that we have our title, the next thing we need to do is we need to make our red T in order to make our T account in the ledger. Now, it's pretty simple to do that here in Excel, or sorry, in Sheets, and it's easy to do it in Excel. I'll show you how to do it here. The buttons might be in different places, but the principle's still the same. I'm going to highlight these 4 cells here underneath where it says cash. And I'm going to come up here to this button here that says borders, and I'm going to click on the borders button. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select color, and we want it to be red. So we're going to select this red right here, and we're going to select it to be our thickest line. Now, you can see we have many options for where we want our border. And in order for this T account to look correct, we want all 4 of these to have a line going just across the top. Just the top part here. So you can see right here, this here says top border. So I'm going to highlight this right here, and that gave us our red line. Now, each account, we're going to need to decide how far down we want each account to go. And I'm going to say we want to probably go a minimum of 6, maybe even 8 lines down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight just these 2 middle, so B and C column, and I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I'm highlighted these 8 cells here. And it should be, if you look over here, it's rows 5 all the way to 12. And I'm going to do a very similar thing, only this time when I click on borders, and it's already set to red, it's already set to the thick line, I'm going to select this one right here, which is the vertical border on the inside between those 2 cells. As you can see, the vertical line right there. And now I have my T account. I can fit a number of transactions, and since we're going to need to do at least 6 transactions in this exercise, I want to make sure I'm giving myself enough room to be able to total up each transaction, and at the very bottom leave a balance. We'll come back to that in a moment. First, we're going to continue to construct the rest of our T accounts. Now, to save ourselves time, and so that we don't have to go through the process of highlighting and putting in these borders each and every time, I'm going to just highlight all of the cells right here that make up my T account. Now, if you want to right-click and hit copy, or if you want to use Control+C, as it's saying right here on your keyboard, to copy it, however you like to copy, I'm going to click copy right here. And next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to skip and leave column E right here blank, and I'm going to take these next 4 cells right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to create my next account under the liabilities. And if we go and I'm going to merge these here. Oh, there's the merge button. Merge, center align, and set it for bold type. We can see the very first account here for our liabilities is accounts payable. So we want to take that title, accounts payable, and put it right up here. So here it's going to be accounts payable. So now I have my title in place. But rather than going through all of that trouble to remake the border, I'm just going to click it right here, which is the very first cell in which my T account should start, right here under column F. And I'm going to right click and I'm just going to click paste. Now, if you want to use your keyboard, which I'm going to do for the rest of these accounts, and just use Control V, because I find it simpler just to use the keyboard, you can do it. But now we have our T account back in place. I didn't have to go through all the trouble of redoing the borders. So here I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to skip. I'm going to leave this column, not because I'm superstitious, but just because we want to leave a space between each account. I'm going to leave all of row 13 blank, and I'm going to merge the first 4 cells, A, B, C, and D, of row 14, merge, and now I am going to center the text, make it bold, and the next one, as we can see here, is supplies. So supplies is what we're going to type in here. Oh, S-U-P-P, oh, typo in there, S-U-P-P-L-I-E-S, supplies. I'm going to click right here, Control V on my keyboard, and boom, I got my T account in place. Again, we're going to keep column E blank. Going to highlight these next 4 right here. We're going to merge those 4 cells. We're going to center the alignment, make it bold text. This account is your mortgage payable, right here, mortgage payable. So that is our next account that we're going to need to put in here. So this here will be mortgage payable. And again, I'll click just right here, Control V on my keyboard, and I have my T account in place. Scroll down a little further. Again, I'm going to leave row 23 completely blank to give a space between my accounts, just like I did up here. So row 24, I'm going to merge and center those 4. And then I'm going to, this time, this account, first off, center and bold type. This account will be land. So the land will get typed in here, land. Again, we're going to skip over row E, or column E, highlight these 4, merge, center the text, bold the text. And this here is going to be for the final one on this right side, which is going to be T Bellevue Capital. So this would be the owner's equity the owner's equity T account, but we will title it T Bellevue. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Capital, so we know it's a capital account. We know this is where the owner's equity goes into. And in both of these situations here, I just click right here for the land, Control V, I have my T account in. Right here in column F, Control V, I have my T account in. So there's 6 out of our 8, but the next 2 we're going to keep in line right here with our assets column, because the next 2 that we need to do is building and then equipment. So building and equipment. So here we'll go back over to row 34. We will select those 4 cells, merge them, center the text, bold the text, and so this one here was building. And then we're going to put in our Control V and paste in our T account, skip row 43, go to row 44, highlight those 4 cells and merge them, center the text, bold the text, and this one here was equipment, so E-Q-U-I-P-M-E-N-T, and then Control V, put our T account into place. So now we have our ledger set up. There it is, it's a blank ledger with all of our accounts in it. We saved ourselves time by just copying and pasting in these T accounts now that they're in here. And now we've completed part A of the question. Open accounts in ledger for each of the following assets and liabilities and for the owner's equity. Now record the balances for Part B. Record the May 31st balances in the accounts. So as we can see here, we have our different accounts. We have our cash right here. We have our supplies, land, so on. All the amounts. We have our totals down here. Here's our liabilities and our owner's equity amount. And we need to take these amounts and we need to put them into an opening balance. So each of these is going to have the date of May 31st. So I'm going to type in May 31st or May 31. I can just leave it like that. I can copy this date because each of my assets is going to have it right here on the left side of our T squares or T account. So that's that one there. Put May 31st there, May 31st here. I'm just pasting it in with Control V. So I have the date of May 31st in each of these right here. Oh, what happened here? Did that? Do that. Not sure. It's okay. We will just do, where'd it go? There. And so, not sure why that did that, but did it again there and there. Okay, so not a big deal. We will just have to go back in and do that there. That there. And that there. Okay. So we have our, for some reason that's aligned. There we go. So now we have all our dates aligned over here. And now we got to put the same opening date, May 31st, in for each of our liabilities. But because it's a liability, we're going to record these liability opening balances on the right side. So I'm going to put the date right here, May 31st. Oh, I'm going to have to do this all over the place, it looks like. There we go. I wonder if I could just Control C this one without it in place. Control V that there. Yep, that looks like it's staying, and it's going to get Control V right there. So again, because these are liability or equity accounts, we are putting the date, the opening balance, on the right side. All of your assets have it over here on the left side. Now we just need to record these dollar amounts right here, and we're going to put them in these columns. Now to save ourselves time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just highlight this strip right here. Notice how they're all highlighted here in the T account. And I'm going to come up here. You should see see these numbers. And this allows me to format numbers that I placed in these particular cells. This gives me a whole lot of options, but obviously the easiest one for us, we're going to click accounting. This will make sure that all the numbers that get recorded in here will show up as money. And I'm going to do the same thing for this column right here in cash, because we're also going to probably wind up having cash amounts written here. And I'm going to do the same thing here for my liabilities. So row G and I for the assets, it's B and D. So right here under row G, I'm going to highlight within my T account, set this to accounting, highlight this here, set this to accounting. Now I'm going to have to do the same thing for all of these accounts. Believe me though, this saves you, I mean, it might seem like a tedious task at this moment, but this will save a lot of time and a lot of thought later on when we are actually inputting our numbers and we don't have to do it manually every time we put a number in here. So again, for assets, it's column B and column D. You want to just highlight each of the cells inside of the T account. And then for the equity and liability accounts, it's column G and column I. So one more to go. Oh, two more to go. Sorry, right here, building. Total account in there, and then accounting, and then accounting, and all set to accounting numbers. Perfect. So now when we start to input our numbers, they will automatically get inputted as cash. So we'll have a quick look at this again. So these are the amounts of money we want to put in for our opening balances. So for cash, we're going to have $5,000. So cash, 5,000, and then when I click off of it, it automatically fills it in as cash. Our supplies was 10,000, fills it in as cash. Our accounts payable was 16,000. So that, remember, 16,000 from accounts payable means that this business owes $16,000 to different, to pay different bills. And the mortgage payable right here was $84,000. Oh, one too many zeros, my bad. I'll take a zero off of there and hit enter. $84,000. So now these accounts here, the land was $40,000. And again, if you need to keep looking back at this to see the numbers, that's fine. I just have them written in front of me as well, so I can keep typing away. And then for the capital was $205,000. And finally, the building's amount is worth $50,000. Or sorry, the building is worth $200,000. And the equipment, sorry, is worth $50,000. So now let's just make sure we got these right. We have 5,000, 10,000, 40,000, 200,000, and 50,000. And over here we have 16,000, 84,000, and 205,000. So these are our opening balances. So now we've completed question 1. Question 1 wanted us to create the ledger, which we finished, and then B wants us to record these balances in here to open our ledger. So these are our opening balances as of May 31st, how much money is in each of these accounts, or how much each of these accounts is worth, or how much we owe in these cases over here. And now we can move on to question 3. So question 3, if we scroll down, we're going to skip question 3A, because 3A is just asking us to analyze each of these transactions to decide which account they go into, which we're going to end up doing anyways when we go to do answer part B to actually input that information into our T account. So we're just going to skip right down to part B, which says right here, record the June 1st to 6th transactions in the ledger accounts prepared from exercise 1. So these are the ledger accounts prepared from exercise 1. These here, under 3A, these are the transactions they want us to record. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 transactions that are going to need to be recorded. Remember the principle of double entry accounting. There's going to be at minimum 2 accounts affected. You're either going to have 2 assets affected, 2 liabilities affected, or an asset and a liability affected, or possibly more of that. It could be up to 3 different accounts affected or more. So let's just go back to the first transaction. The first transaction says that we purchased a new barbecue grill from Restaurant Supply Company for $1,780 on credit. So what this is telling us is that our equipment is going to increase because we just purchased new equipment for the restaurant. So our equipment right here is going to increase. Since we know this is happening on June the 1st, so right here, June the 1st, right there is the transaction. We know that we're going to have an increase in the amount of equipment we own. So remember, assets increase on this side, the left side. So we're going to type in the date right here, June 1st. Oh, I'm going to make sure that these are going to align to the left over here. And this amount of money, so it's telling us right here that is $1,780. So this is going to increase this by $1,780. But as we just talked about, double entry accounting means that another account is going to have to be affected. And in this case, it's telling us that we paid for this grill on credit. on credit. Okay, so whenever you see credit, what you should immediately think of is accounts payable. Now, we have an asset increase, and in order to keep this balanced, that also means that either another asset has to decrease or one of our liabilities has to increase. And since we've just determined the other account affected is accounts payable, and that's a liability, then we know that this must also increase by the exact same amount. So June 1st, I'm going to make sure that all of these dates will come over to the line there. We also have to increase this by $1,780. So that would be 1780 right there. The next transaction on June the 2nd, right here, it says that we made the regular monthly payment of $880 on the mortgage. Okay, so $880 on the mortgage. So there's our mortgage payable, since we know that it's $880 on the mortgage. We know that we're going to have to, it's going to affect this account. This is June the 2nd, and the reason that I'm putting it, June the 2nd, I want these to align over to here. The reason I know it's going on the left side of this account is because we're making this payment, which is going to decrease the amount we owe back on our mortgage. So anything that causes one of your liabilities to decrease gets put on the left side. So on June 2nd, we made a payment of $880 to our mortgage. So right here, $880. Now the question becomes, when we look at this, where did this money come from? Where did the $880 come from to pay this bill? And when you look at your assets, the only account that you could take money or something out of in order to pay that back would have to be our cash account. So this $880 had to come out of our cash. So on June the 2nd, and I want these to align over here. We also know that we have $880 coming out of our cash. And remember, our assets will decrease on the right side of their account. So anything put on this side of the T causes this account to decrease. Now we have the June 3rd transaction right here. So on June the 3rd, we paid $1,300 to reduce the balance owing to Wholesale Foods Limited. So whenever you see balance owing, it's going to be, that means we're paying off a bill. It means we are paying this money to pay off a bill. And since we don't have a special account specifically for Wholesale Foods, that will just go into our generic accounts payable, which is basically an account where all of our bills get paid. In this case, it says right here that we're reducing the balance owing. So that means the number is going to go down by $1,300. And since this here is a liability, we know that liabilities are going to decrease on the left side. So here on June the 3rd, we're going to have to set these dates as well. Lined over to here. On June the 3rd, it was $1,300. So on June the 3rd, $1,300 came to the accounts payable to pay off some of our bills. In this particular case, Wholesale Foods Limited. Now this $1,300 again had to come from somewhere, and just like the mortgage, the only account we can use to pay is our cash account. So on June the 3rd, we have $1,300 coming out of our cash account. So there we go, $1,300 out of cash. Double entry accounting, $1,300 makes this go down, $1,300 makes that go down. Perfect, they remain in balance. Okay, so two more transactions, and this one here is a bit of a larger one. Let's read it through so we can try to figure out what accounts we're going to have to deal with. It says here that we purchased a new table and 4 chairs from Owen Furniture. Okay, so new table and 4 chairs would go under one of our accounts. Now, this isn't equipment for cooking. It would go more, and it isn't land, and it isn't technically part of the building because it could be sold separately from the building. So this would go under supplies. So here, this is June, was it the 5th? Yeah, June 5th. In this particular case, I'm going to have to move the dates for these one as well. And this was for the amount. So we know it's June the 5th, and we know our supplies are the ones that are going to be changed. And it says here that we paid $280 as a down payment. So that's going to come from one account. But it also says that a balance of $320 will be due in 30 days. Okay, so in 30 days, this money is going to have to get paid. So $320. But in order for us to figure out the amount our supplies is going to go up by, we need to figure out the total purchase price here. So we can take a calculator out if we need to, and we can see that we have our $280 right here, plus our $300. Oh, I accidentally hit the wrong button. So $280 plus our $320. That gives us a total of $600. So the amount we need to put in here is $600 because we just got an additional $600 worth of supplies in the form of a table and chairs. Now we need to figure out where those payments are going to come from. So we know $600 has got to go from somewhere. And this is telling us that this is going to affect at least 2 other accounts because it's saying that we paid $280 as a down payment. And again, there's only one account we have where money can come from, or where we can get money from, and that is our cash account. So on June the 5th, this $280 has to come out to make that down payment. So there is the second account that's affected, but we're still out of balance because this is only accounted for the $280. So this is going to cause our assets to go down by $280. Our assets have already increased by $600. So somehow we need to balance this off with that other $320, which we have right here. And this is telling us that we are going to pay that at a later date. It's due in 30 days. So that's a bill we're going to have to pay. And any bill that needs to get paid goes under accounts payable. And because this is going to mean it's more money we need to pay, our accounts payable is now going to increase. And liabilities increase on the right side of our T account. This is on June the 5th. And it's for the amount of $320. And now we're back in balance. This $600 is balanced out by we have a $600 increase in assets. We balance that out by taking $280 from this asset and increasing a liability by $320. That keeps our ledger in balance. Okay, and finally, our last transaction for the week, and it's saying that the owner, Payable, invested an additional $3,000 into the business. Okay, so right off the bat, we see this person's name right in. We can see it right there. We can see Payable right there and Payable right there, and it's saying that the owner has invested this amount of money. So right off the bat, we know when the owner is investing money into the business, that is our capital account. This is where the owner's equity goes. And this is happening on June the 6th. So because he's investing more money, or she, I'm not sure, they are investing more money into this here on the 6th. Oh, gotta get that date to the right. Oh, don't want. Yeah, there we go. We know that this is increasing by $3,000, and it's right here on the right side of our capital account. But now the second account that's going to get affected would have to be a place where she or he could put that money. And the only account where you can actually invest money would be the cash account. So here on June 6th, we're going to put $3,000 right here. Make the date go back over to there, to show that this account here now increased on June the 6th by a total of $3,000. And that is our final transaction. So 3B is now finished. All done. Exercise. We recorded all the transactions in there. Now 3C says to calculate the new balances for each of the accounts. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. I'll show you how to do this. And this is where we need to get into using functions inside of our spreadsheet. So now we have all of the different amounts recorded inside here. What we need to do is we need to total them. And we also need to create a balance. So it tells us that we're going to total all of our columns, and then when we get our totals, whichever side of our T has the larger amount, that is where we will put our new balance. So as an example, in this particular case here, I am going to click on this number, $3,000. And what I'm going to do is I am going to give this an underline. And you might say, well, there's bold and there's italics, but we don't seem to have underline available. Well, if we come up here to where it says format, we have the option right here for underline. Later on, when we're going to need to use a double underline, we don't have that function. I'm going to have to show you how to do it a different way. But in this particular case, we're going to, underneath the 3,000, we're going to underline that. This underline indicates that we're adding these numbers. I'm going to do the same thing right here with the bottom number 280. I'm going to come up to data. I'm going to come down, format. I'm going to come down to underline and underline. This implies that we're going to be adding up these amounts. The same thing over here. Right here, because we only have one amount under accounts payable, we can just leave this alone. We're not adding or anything else. We're just leaving that amount as the amount. But here we have multiple numbers that need to be dealt with. So we're going to also put the underline symbol here. So now that they're underlined, this indicates to us that these numbers have been added, and the next number that we put below it is what they equal. So right here, I am going to come over, I'm going to click on this cell here, which is B7. I'm going to come over to here, and we have this symbol right here, and it says functions. I'm going to click the little arrow, and in this case, when I want to add, the symbol or the function I want to choose is the sum function. Sum means to add. So I'm going to click sum, and then notice it puts this right here, equals sum bracket. Now if you wanted to, you could just type this in. You don't need to come up here and click the sum button. If you want to type the equal sign and then sum and then set your brackets, whatever cell names you put inside these brackets, it will sum those two. Now the simpler way is, now that we have the function inserted here, I'm just going to highlight these two cells. I'm going to click and drag so I get B6 and B5 together. See, I've highlighted both of them, and it says right inside here, cell B colon or B5 colon B6, meaning it's going to add everything between B5 and B6, and then I just hit enter, and it gave us our total, $8,000 right there. Now I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to come over, I'm going to hit sum, and when I highlight these three here, you should see, yep, right there. So now this is telling me D5 to D7. So everything from D5 to D7 is being added. It's already giving me my total right here, but I'm going to hit enter. So it's $2,460. That's what it's telling me is going to be the number displayed in there. So when I hit enter, $2,460 is what that would add up to. So now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Again, I don't need to add anything, so I'm just going to leave this number as is, but right here I do need to add. So I'm going to come over to sum, select sum, and highlight these three cells right here. and then hit enter. And there's the amount, $18,100. So now, when we want to put in our final balance for these accounts, we're going to need to put that on the side of the T that has the larger amount. In this case here for cash, we have $8,000. And over here, we have $2,460. So this side is obviously larger. So underneath the date at the very bottom, the very last cell inside of our T, I'm going to type the word balance, B-A-L-A-N-C-E. This is telling me what this account's balance is as of the date, which in this particular case, since our last transaction was on the 5th, well, this will wind up being June the 7th. So that's right here. And so yeah, balance there. So what I'm going to do is I am now going to come up with the equation for figuring out the balance. And the way it always works is you're always going to take the larger number and subtract the smaller number. So in this particular case, inside this cell, I'm going to type the equal sign. This indicates that I'm about to put in an equation. Now I'm going to click the larger amount because the larger amount goes first. In this case, $8,000. So now it's telling me equal sign, cell B7. Now I'm going to just type the subtract symbol, subtract, or the takeaway symbol. And I'm going to click this cell right here, which is D8. So B7, take away D8, and I'm going to hit enter, and there is our new balance. Our new balance right there. So I'm going to need to do the same thing for this account, but notice for our asset, it was over here on the left side. For our liability, what we want is we want our liabilities here. This is we're going to put balance right down here on the very bottom. Oh, yeah. Balance. This is the larger amount, 18,100, much bigger than 1,300. So I'm going to go equal sign, larger amount, take away smaller amount, enter. There we go. So there's our new balance for this one. This one here, we'll look at supplies. Supplies doesn't have anything in this column, so the balance is going to be pretty simple. I'm still going to need to find out what these add up to. So I'm going to take this amount right here, and I am going to underline it. So I'm going to go into Format. I'm going to put it into Underline. Oh, which reminds me of what I need to do. So whenever you have your final balance, the way you display it as your final balance is this needs to be double underlined. When we look into the Format feature, there is no option here for a double underline. So what we're going to do to kind of get around this is we're going to come back over here to our Borders tab. This time we're going to set this back to black, and we're going to choose the double line right here, and this time we're going to select just the bottom. That gives us the appearance of a double underline. It's the only way I could figure out how to do a double underline in Google Sheets. I know Excel has the option for a double underline underneath the same option for underlining. But here, we're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to use our border. So we're going to go into Borders. It's already set to back in the double underline. So we're just going to select bottom. See, bottom border on that one cell gives us the appearance of a double underline. Now that we have our single underline here, we're going to put in our balance right here. In fact, what we could do is, actually, we're just going to leave these totals blank without a date. So we're going to put we're going to do our sum right here. Sum these two right here, enter. And I'm sure for simple ones like here, you could have easily just typed in 10,600. However, when I am going and I am going to be correcting your assignment, I'm going to be clicking in these spaces. And notice right up here, it tells me that you put in an equation instead of just typing in the number. If I had wanted to have 10,600 and I type in 10,600 right here, notice up here where it's telling me what's in display, 10,600. Both of these are displaying the same number, but when I click here, this tells me right here that you used an equation to get that number. When I click here, it tells me you just typed in the number. So I want to make sure you're actually doing the equation. So when I correct them, I'm going to be clicking on the cells to make sure the equation appears up here, and you didn't just copy my numbers by typing in the numbers I put here. So yes, you are going to have to actually use the equations. For this balance here, this will be a very simple one. There is no subtraction to take place, so you're just going to hit equal sign, and then you're going to click this cell right here, which would be B17. Again, you could have just typed in this number right here, but I don't want you to do that. I'm going to be clicking on the balances to make sure that you're typing in these equations. And to be honest, here you had the type 1 symbol, and then click up here. In theory, that should be quicker than typing out the whole number. For our mortgage payable, we have something on both sides. Now, in this case here, we don't have to add anything up. There's nothing to total. We just have to look at what side has the larger amount, and obviously it's this size right here, this side right here. So we're going to put our balance right here. And this time here, we're still going to use our subtraction equation. So equal sign, the larger number, take away the smaller number, equals. Just a couple more to go. So this one here, we have to add these up. So I am going to format this with an underline. This is important. If you're not underlining these and you send it in without it underlined, you will lose some value. Here I'm going to sum. So come up here, sum, and then highlight these two right here, and then enter, and we have our amount. Now, again, we don't have anything in this side of our account, so we can just type in balance, and then in this cell here, we just an equal sign, and then this amount. No subtraction necessary. And in fact, for the next two, here it's going to be the same way. We're just going to type in the word balance, equal sign this, because we had no change. This one here. And again, because these are assets, that's why these are getting written on the left side of our T account. And this here is a capital account, which works the same as a liability, which is why it was on the right side. This is just equal sign here, enter. And finally, we have this one here, which is going to need a total. So we're going to underline this one right here. Underline, balance. This here, we're going to do our sum. Highlight those two there. And it's done. Equals that there. And we have our new balances in place. So that's all done. So we've just finished question 3C, calculate the new balances for each account. So these are the new balances after 1 week into June. And then D asks us to prepare a trial balance. Okay, so when we want to prepare a trial balance, we need to remember what we're going to do and what a trial balance looks like. So the trial balance looks like this. If we go back up and we look at a trial balance, this is what one of them looks like. It looks very similar to a balance sheet, except rather than having assets and liabilities, here we just have 3 columns. We have an account column with all of our accounts listed, plus the total at the bottom. Then we have a debit column, which lists all the debits that have occurred. Then we have a credit column, which lists all the credits. So really what these are the totals that we should have. So as an example, this total amount right here that we have right here under equipment would really go under the debit column in the one we're going to create for the account equipment. And then all of our liabilities, such as our mortgage, this amount right here for our mortgage, that will come into this area here, the credit. So we have a total of 8 accounts. Now, when we scroll down here and we go to create, well, we're going to leave 2 blank spaces to separate our ledger from our trial balance. And we're going to start this on, we're going to start this on row 55 right here. And we want to create a trial balance, but we want to do this using our accounts from up above. So first thing that we're going to do is we want to have a who, a what, and a where. And it's just the exact same who, what, and where that we already have up here. So to save ourselves time, I'm going to copy these 3 right here. I am going to need to edit the date, so this is supposed to be a week later. So we're going to skip these 2 spaces, and I'm going to paste these in here. Now, I'm going to unmerge all of these. So now, the reason I unmerged is because we don't want to go 9 across. As we've already talked about, when you look at one of these, you have 1 column for your accounts, 1 column for your debits, and 1 column for your credits. So we only need to go 3 columns over. So I'm going to take this one here and I'm going to highlight these 3 columns. I'm going to merge these 3 here. I'm going to merge these 3 here. And I'm going to merge these 3 here. And again, for this one here, I need to edit the date. So I'm going to come up here to where I can edit the text inside, and I'm going to change this from May 31st to, since the last transaction was on June the 6th, this will be the next day, we'll say June 7th, 2020. Great. So there we go. So we have our headings. And if you want, you can feel free to put a border on these to make it. So here I can even go make a border, change the line to a regular line, and make it just go around like that. So there we have a border going around our there. And we can even have these 3 highlighted and give another similar border. All the way. Oh, no, we don't want that one with that one. All the way around. Oh, we got that one anyway, did we? Oh, yeah, there we go. No, I don't want that one. I want to use the border where it's just like that. So this here, highlight all of them together, do it, no border. Get the border off them. Heck it. We'll go there we go. Perfect. Simple enough. You don't need to do the border. I did that just for my own sake. Just to show you how this is separate and just to show you how the title is separate up here. So now when we want to go to our trial balance, remember we have our 3 columns. We have account, debit, and credit. We're going to make this go center aligned and we want to bold. We're going to type account. Then here we're going to do, again, we want to center align and then bold. And this was debit. And then finally center align this one and bold and credit. So now we just have to type in our accounts. So we have cash, then we have supplies, land, building, equipment. Now we're going to have accounts payable. Then we're going to have mortgage payable. And then finally we have the capital account. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we want to have these represent the same amounts up here. So again, I don't want to see people just typing the amounts. We're going to use our equal sign. So for cash equal sign, scroll up where our cash balance is. We're going to click that cell and hit enter. Then for this one here, we have our equal sign. For supplies, come up here and hit enter. Land, enter. Building, enter. And then equipment, right there, that was easy. Now accounts payable. Your mortgage payable. And then your capital account. So now I have those in there. Oh, my mistake. These three here should have went under credit, so I'm just going to Control X, Control V, copy and paste, or sorry, cut and paste these over to the proper column. There we go. So again, when I click on here though, you see this has got the cell number this number's coming from, I-12, the same with this one here, B-12, and so on. So when I click on yours, I don't want just these numbers typed in here. I want to make sure I'm seeing the equation. So now the final part of this is we have a totals area right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put right here, I know it's blank, there's no number here. I'm going to underline this cell anyways. So I'm going to go format, underline. Oh, it doesn't put it up. Well, this one here, I'm going to go underline, format, and underline it. And then this one here, maybe we can just do this with underscore to get the same effect. So just type in a bunch of underscores to get the same effect of having an underline right here. This indicates that all the numbers up here are going to get added. I know I could have just underlined it here, but to keep everything in line, we have our underline here and our underline here. I'm going to type in the word total. So just like we have right here, we have our totals written right here. Totals. And here I'm going to go and sum up. Oh, I'm going to close that little window because that's not helping me. I'm just going to sum up these cells here and hit enter. 307,920. And now we're going to come over to here and I'm going to sum up these three right here. And then when I hit enter, the numbers should and hopefully do match. If they do, we did it right. And in this case, they do. If not, then there was a mistake done along the way. Again, these should both have double underlines to show that these are the final totals. So I'm going to come up to format my cell. No, actually, I'm going to go to borders. That's right. Change this line to a double line and make it just on the bottom. Do the same thing right here, border just on the bottom for a double line, and we have that. So now we have finished our, we're almost finished. We want to change this as well. We want to change general ledger. I'm glad I caught that before I was finished, to trial balance. So trial balance, now it's all set. So now we've done our trial balance, that all works, we're good. And the final thing that I want us to do, I know that this isn't technically part of the question because we've now finished part D, preparing the trial balance. Just because I know that it's part of the accounting cycle, and we can see here, so we started with an original balance sheet. We took that balance sheet and made a ledger. From that ledger, we added transactions into the ledger. After we added our transactions, we then found the new balances of the T accounts. And then once we found the new balances, we did a trial balance to make sure everything was correct. And the final step of the accounting cycle is to do a new balance sheet. So this actually shouldn't be too difficult as long as we know the format for a balance sheet. In this particular case, we can actually do a lot of copying and pasting from this trial balance in order to make our balance sheet a lot quicker. So I'm just going to copy this title. I'm going to skip 2 lines and go right down to row 70 and paste this in here. I'm going to change trial balance to balance sheet. So I'm going to take out where it says trial balance. I'm going to type in balance sheet. B-A-L. Sheet. But there's one other thing I'm going to need to do. I'm going to need to now merge those one over, merge this one here, one over, and merge this one here, one over. We want 4 columns. Notice our trial balance has 3 columns. For this one here, when we are going to be doing a balance sheet, we want 4 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here on this column here, for row 73, these 2 cells, I'm going to merge them together. I'm going to center, bold, type in assets. Then I'm going to center and bold, or center, so merge, center and bold these here, and type in liabilities. Now, you might be wondering, why is this necessary? Why couldn't I just use the trial balance for whatever I need it? I know that this means my money's correct. Well, remember, a trial balance is an informal statement which you can only use within your business. A balance sheet is actually something you can use outside the business when you need to discuss money with banks and other clients, so on and so forth. So that's why a new balance sheet must be prepared at the end. So we have these accounts right here. I'm just going to copy these 5 accounts right here, and I'm going to place them right here. Boom. There we have our accounts. I'm now going to take these dollar amounts for those same accounts, copy them, and paste them right next to them. Boom. Oh, what happened there? Why did that not work? Did that work at all? No, I'll get rid of this here. I'll get rid of that there. Let's see what happens if I copy. Control C on those ones. Control V there. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll have to just do something a little different. Don't know why that's doing what it's doing, but all right. So this one here is just going to be equals that, enter. Equals that, enter. Equals that one, enter. Oh, this here will be equals that one, enter. And then equals that one, enter. See? Just as quick, I guess. And now we're going to take our 2 liability accounts, put them right here. I'm going to skip a space and I'm going to merge both of these here. Merge those 2 cells, and this one here is where we're going to type in owners equity. And we want this to be centered. We also want it to be in bold. And that's when we're going to take this account right here, paste it right there. And now we can take this equal sign equals that amount. Oh, no, backspace that out. Equals that amount. This is going to equal that amount. And this is going to equal there we go, that amount. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one here underlined, which tells me that I'm going to put my total liability. So total liabilities are right there. And this is just going to be a sum of these amounts right here. Enter. So there's our total liabilities right there. Now, right on this one here, I am going to make this one underlined. So actually, yes, I'm going to skip a space here, and I'm actually going to have to put this one right here for total assets, and then I'm going to come over to this one here and do total liabilities and owner's equity on that column. So this here, I will underline that number, and I'm going to have to underline this one right here. Here, I'm going to sum these amounts, just like that, enter. And this one here, we are going to sum, but notice if we just scroll and sum them all, these two numbers will get copied twice by the fact that this number is here. So when I hit this one here, I'm just going to go equal, and rather than hitting the sum button, which I could do, I could just go sum, and then click this cell, and then click that cell right there. Oh, that cell, control, and that cell right there. I have them both. So there we go. That gives us our amount. Rather than holding control and typing them both in the way I did there, the other way I could have did it, just to make it simple, if I hit equals, this sign, plus that amount there, and hit enter. Remember, these are the two amounts. You want your total liabilities and your owner's equity to get added for your total liabilities and equity. Last step here, I'm going to go into my borders and make them double underline there, double underline that one there, and now we have completed the accounting cycle. We started with a balance sheet we had right here that was already made for us. We took that through and made T accounts, we made a general ledger full of T accounts. We then put transactions into these T accounts. We then got the new total for these T accounts. We took those new totals and we created a trial balance to make sure everything added up correctly. And then once our trial balance was completed, we then went in and we created our balance sheet, which we can then take out to, make one small little typo, make that capital J. And there we go. So this here is how you would go about completing the computer assignment for Chapter 2. If you have any questions, please email them to me.